Okay, so I just want to make this video here today about magnetism and some principles of magnetism, which is the same as electrical outputs. They it is the same type of flow. Everything in this world can increase its power. Everything has much more power when it gets grounded. When it has a ground to flow through, the powers can work. So I'm going to show you. I've showed y'all this before. It is a basically kind of a 3D representation of a magnetic field. Of If you ever look at a magnetic field through a magnetic of like paper, so you can see its field lines or whatever. This is kind of what you will see. Okay, you'll see this shape, and this will be one of the poles, and that's the other pole back there. Okay, and what happens is if you ever take this like this, and if you introduce a ground to this, you see how it spins. Okay, and this is not the exact same thing, but when you introduce some way to ground, which is my arm is the path to ground. You give a path to flow to towards the ground, it will start to spin. That's how that works. So same thing with magnetism, same thing with everything else. And see this is a 3D representation of magnetism. And if you look at a magnet through a film or whatever, that film it's not grounded. Okay? You're just looking at the magnetic field. Magnetic field needs to be under pressure to make a twisting vortex field. Normally it's just sitting, but when it goes under torsion and goes to ground, then it starts putting pressure down and really digging in, kind of twists like this. How this twists. It puts a torsion into it and creates more pull because it's always spinning around. Magnetic fields are always going back around through themselves, but when they're put under pressure, then they actually twist, and you can see how these lines all twist towards the center. So if you look at the magnetic field, it does the exact same thing. And if you look at the two-dimensional planes of a magnetic field as you move through you'll see the twisting. You'll see it twist because that's what it does. That's what it's doing. That's what it does. It's a vortex. And there's a guy, there's a lot of information. It's already been proven out there about it. But ultimately, I just want to get to the point that everything flows through ground. When you introduce a ground, you introduce a torsion. You let the spin, like of the magnet for saying, you give it something to dump its load into, basically. And when it's floating in space, like if you had this floating in space and this was spinning around, right? Well, you can't really tell, you can't really see, but this goes around, and each time that you spin this around. So if I put a dot on here, let's see if I can get a good camera angle here. I can't really show you, can I? Okay, let's just say this is the one I'm on, right? And this is spinning around. When this comes back around, it'll be on this one. It keeps spinning it. It'll become over here and here. So it twists as it's going, but it's equally twisting. So when it's in space and it's spinning with speed, you don't ever see any twisting. When there's no ground to go to, there's no arm to flow through, there's no twisting. So this could be spinning around, but when you finally get to a ground, which is like my arm here, those lines, they're flowing downwards because downwards is ground, right? It starts to pick up a wobble. And it's hard to get it to do it, but yeah, you see it'll flow and spin towards the center, making a vortex field. It's the same thing with magnetism. You know, once you give it a ground to flow to, then it can dig in. And magnetism is the same as electricity. You know, it's everything's fundamentally three forces. Three forces fundamentally compose almost all forces in the universe, and they're all pretty much the same. It's all the same structure. It's the same mathematics all the way through. So, yeah. Anyways, I just want to make that video for you. I hope you all enjoyed that. I hope you all have a glorious, magnificent, wonderful, beautiful, awesome, amazing day, and I hope you can understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's kind of simple. But yeah, you can also look up if you want to see some videos about this. It's kind of hard to find, but there's a guy who does some videos, Theoria Aperficia. I don't know, but he will show you some videos about magnetic vortex, and once you watch some of the demonstrations, you will be able to understand that it's a vortex shape, and that magnetism is pretty much everywhere. And the word he might use the word ether, and people use the word ether, but ether makes things sound bad. But that's ultimately the truth. There is nothing but mass everywhere. The problem is with modern science is that we have this thing where we give objects like light. Light is a higher dimensional object. It exists within the third dimension and higher, right? Well, we say light doesn't have mass, but light exists within the third dimension. And light has protons, or whatever the hell else they want to say, some other physical body. There's another physical body. It's a particle and a wave. A particle, let me explain this to you. A particle is 100% mass. It is mass. A particle is mass. There's no such thing as a light particle that doesn't have mass. Anything that has length, width, and depth has mass. You can't add depth without adding mass. You can't make a three-dimensional object without adding mass. That should be common sense. And anyone who thinks that they can argue that point is really just a total idiot. A total fucking idiot. Okay? So, yeah. I would like to hear what you have to say. If you think that you can argue that point, I would like to argue with you in the comment section. So argue with me. Come argue with me. Let's try to talk about this. But yeah, you can't add mass. You can't add volume without adding mass. You can't have a particle without having mass. Plain and simple. So light has mass. Light exists within the third dimension, and therefore it has mass. And as you go up, you know, just as things in the second dimension have absolutely no mass. There's no mass in the second dimension. There's only length and width, and that's it. Therefore, there's absolutely no mass, and therefore, a two-dimensional a two-dimensional object can never be sucked into a black hole. So there you go. Anyways, I'm going to keep it under 10 minutes. I hope you all have a glorious, magnificent, wonderful, beautiful, awesome, incredible, amazing day. And I love you all. Until next time, I hope you all enjoy this video. And bye.